Anyone watching the... Sorry, I did not record the beginning, so I'm going to go ahead and scroll through the answers. You can pause and grade any of the ones that you need. We were taking notes just a second ago, but don't stress. We'll be back to them in a second. Getting them ready anyway. Okay. There's 2 and 12 and 16. 24. 30. 36. 50. And now we're on 60. And we just discussed this whole thing about extraneous. Okay. Having to do with logarithmic domain restrictions. And the -3, when we went back to plug in and check, is illegal in the logarithm. So he's a no-go, but the 2 is good. Jordan's asking a question. Jordan, go ahead. Maybe. But so far, I don't really see a need. And actually, I see it being a handicap. And actually, I see it as a cheating technique to where you can pretend to have, but you actually haven't. And that's bad. Yeah. Right? Which is why I'm saying you don't need decimals. So I'm preparing you for not needing it. Question, Matthew. Oh, we did use the one-to-one property. Because didn't it just disappear? If we didn't use the one-to-one property, what should be there? That would be using the inverse property. So since it wasn't shown, technically they used the one-to-one property right there. But it was completely illegal to use here because a single log was not with a single log, which is why we had to condense first. Now one-to-one property is legal. Single to single, let's go. Yeah. Okay, we have a couple more, or at least one more. Some of you guys have already checked it. Where's my cursor? There it is. Number 78. Final answer is just e to the 1. Multiply, the x squared disappears. Sweet. Subtract the 1, divide the negative e to the. And then last but not least, okay, here's the ironic thing. This is a very straightforward word problem because they gave you an equation. They told you in the wording that P stands for price, X stands for demand. And then they said, what will happen if the price is 169? What were you supposed to do? Plug it in. Now, am I saying all the math is easy? No. But the word problem wasn't hard as far as how to start. They give you an equation. They say P is price, X is demand. When price is 169, come on, guys, this is like back to elementary, middle school math. Middle school math. If there is a P and they tell you P, you plug it in, right? Now, how do we get to X? Walk me through step by step. I know it's here, but how do we do it? Divide 5,000. The 5,000's gone. Now what? Subtract the 1. That's gone. Now what? Well, I would divide the negative. You don't have to, but I would divide the negative. Then what? I think multiply and distribute and then like add and subtract. Now what are they doing? They're saying, you know what, the math gets messy. So they went to decimals really fast and then they were just using their calculator, using decimals so they didn't have to make it ugly. But technically, I could do the exact same thing, not going to decimals and not using my calculator until the very, 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 very end to match up with the answer in the back. And this is what it would look like. You would have 169 over 5,000. Pause. Are we okay plugging in 169 for price when they say price is P? Are we okay with that? Okay, it's not meant to be hard. So the only question should be how to do the math. Shouldn't have been being freaked out by the words or by the examples or, by the extra directions. Don't let all that freak you out. You were just putting in 169 and saying, let's solve. Why is this in here? A lot of growth, a lot of change in lots of different fields are going to have e's in them. And so what they're saying is we need you to get really good at knowing what to do with e's and ln's. So they're making you practice. So it's just practicing your skills. When we divide, we get the 1 minus. Then we said to subtract the 1. I'm doing -1 plus instead of -1. It looks nice. Then we said we could multiply both sides by a -1 or divide by a -1 to get rid of this guy. Then we said we could multiply that nasty denominator, because who wants to keep division in a problem? Nobody. Now it starts to get a little gross. We've gotten rid of the 1 plus. We've gotten rid of the denominator. Now we have a 4? Oh. Oh, but we need to get x alone. So I'm going to divide all of that. Let's just distribute that negative. That's silly. Let's make it 1 minus 169 all over 5. I just hate going to my calculator over and over again. It makes me feel tied to it, so I'm just putting the numbers. I need to get to x, so what do? Subtract. How do I get rid of e? So if I do ln, I think I would just get to -0.002x. Now I have ln of 4 over 1 minus 169 all over 5,000. Oops, nope. Can't forget my poor little -4. I think I just need to divide by this guy, right? Finally got x alone. And if I was to solve that, I would go ahead and open up my calculator, but then I have to do all these extra options, so I'm just going to throw him in. I'll let you guys see the answer key one last time. I'm going to freeze the screen and throw in what I got. So you guys just watch me just keep all the numbers in the entire time. So I'm going to do ln of that nasty fraction, which was 4 over 1 minus another little baby fraction of 169 all over 5,000. All of that is -4, and all of that is times a nice little pretty fraction of 1 over -0.002. Final answer of 983.308. Wait a minute, why didn't they put the decimal of 0.308? They're answering with how many phones? Does 0.308 count as another whole phone? No. They're saying about 983 phones. And just in case you're like, oh, plugging that in must have been super, 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 super nasty. Guys, remember, your calculator can do some pretty cool stuff. In that, it can make things look exactly like you have them by solving. Because what I did was use the cool fraction button. But that cool fraction button can also put a fraction in a fraction. It can make it look exactly like you have it. So that way you don't have to stress too much about what you're putting in and whether or not it'll match. Oops, nope, I don't want him there, do I? Don't I need him outside a big ol' -4? Okay. And then can't I have that now by another fraction of 1 over -0.002? Dun 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 dun. 983. Uh-oh. I'll let you guys go ahead and check for B, but guys, on B, wasn't it just the exact same thing, but now with 299? Aw, bummer. Man, I wish there was a way that we can hold on. Didn't I just do this entire thing and keep all the numbers the entire time? Guess what? Since I did mine this way, you know what I can do for letter B? I can say, wait a minute, where was the 169 piece? This is where computer programming is super nice, because if you can get formulas where you just have to change one piece every time, man, you can make something where a user just has to plug in whatever the price is, etc., and then the program will change it. It's nice to have formulas sometimes. So instead of 169, what's my new price? $2.99. And I don't have to do any more math. Dun 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 dun. If you guys did the decimal way, you'd have to do the whole thing over again. Bummer. All right, that's the end. Joe, let me peek at your calculator to see what went wrong, but as I peek at Joe's calculator, let me hear any questions we have on odds. On odds. I want to hear odds. Those are the ones you knew the answers to and you were able to check on calculator. Oh, yours you can't make pretty. You might want to do decimals along the way. Tyler. 31. 9. 39. Anything else? Yeah. 53. Anything else? Okay. 39 first, then 53. Let me zoom in a little bit more so it's prettier. Ooh, that's a little too intense. 39, my guess is just to solve, right? Guys, why would someone not like 39? Yeah, and what do we do before? What do we do before? Factored, right? Because e to the 2x means it's a quadratic. So if you don't like it and you're like, I'm just having issues with it, you can go ahead and say it's u squared minus 4 minus 5. And when you go to u equals 5, you can just make it e to the x. And then ln. Now, the other way, if you can get to it, if you can realize this is just a quadratic, maybe you can just say instead of x, put an e to the x with your minus 5 and your plus 1. It does save some time. Well, this is for the people that aren't liking the e to the x. So Jordan, you were going straight here, which was perfect. I was showing if you don't like the e to the x and it's just your brain can't make this jump. You can't ignore the e to the x for a little bit, but eventually he has to come back. But either way, we're not done until we solve. So what do you have to do to both sides? And when you do ln of 5, we're good. Because that's a real number. 5 is positive. Inside an ln, it's legal. But when we do ln of negative 1, remember, ln's only go to 0 and don't even hit that. That's illegal. Is that cool? So ln of negative 1, because it's a negative number inside the ln, that's outside the domain. ln's aren't allowed to go to negative. So therefore that one, we could call it extraneous, or we could just say plug it into your calculator. It doesn't work. ln can't be of a negative number. So then Rana, 53? Ooh, 53 still says solve. But I think we have to keep our wits about us just a little bit in case it gets weird. We don't have to do any like condensing or expanding. I mean, I guess we could, but I think instead of powering up, it'd be a lot easier just to divide. You guys okay with that? How do we undo? That was intense. How do we do a log base 3? Three to the power of both sides. Is that okay? So then we have 0.5x. I don't know. I don't like 0.5, so I'm going to do 1/2 x because it's nicer. Remember, when you do 3 to the power of, it's 3 to the exponent. And so then I would multiply both sides by 2. Now, here's the trick. 3 is exponent of 11 over 6, and 2 is not. Those two together. You can't make that 6 because the 2's not being raised to that power. And they're not like bases, so we're kind of stuck just leaving it like that. Yeah. We can't go any further. That's one of those, if you do go further, you're going to get it wrong. Okay, section 3.5. You guys wrote down some models at the beginning of class. And the ones you wrote down. Oh, do you have a question, Jason? I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Oh.
The other one I was going to ask.
Yeah.
We can do decimal, but I realized you were excluding.
Yeah, I didn't like the 0.5. And then the decimals, I knew it was right, so I just stopped. Okay, 3.5. I've already warned you. It's the big ol' not accumulation. I mean, it is. You're accumulating all the stuff that you've gleaned, mastered, practiced, etc., all chapter long, to say, can you do the math necessary to? 3.4 says to face these equations. 3.5 says to face these scenarios. But I'm going to help a lot today, okay? With homework, specifically. So some of you might want to have like the YouTube video up and to this point and pause for when you do homework to say, okay, the first section of homework or like the first Get past the vocab and the basics. And be like, okay, she helped us on this. She helped me on this. I'm going to do exactly what she says. Like literally, you might want to do that. You guys wrote down these already. We have a formula for interest, because interest has these little exponential pieces, NT and RT. Continuously compounding means throughout the year. Like if you were to pause and look at a statement or call up your bank person and be like, hey, my account, where is it at today? They can be like, oh, easy, it's continuously compounding, so therefore I know exactly where it's at today. Whereas if it was something where it only happened annually, it only happened once a year, quarterly, once a quarter, or monthly, once a month, it's not continuously happening. You have to wait until the next cycle or pay period, etc. This is the first section of homework. I want you guys to get down the important information from the directions. Hello? Yes. Yes, she is. Okay. Guess he doesn't like blue notes today. Okay. Just leave it, because worst comes to worst, you come back, I write you a note. Okay. What do we got? If I were you guys, I would literally make this little baby table. If I were you guys, I would literally make this table. Okay? Because this shows up in homework. Problem 7 through 12, and you guys might have some. Okay? In this table, you're given information and you're missing other information, and you're supposed to fill in the boxes. As soon as you were to or are to read the words continuously compounded, I need you guys to put a formula with it, and specifically the formula from the page before. And specifically the formula from the page before. And let me fill in just a few little descriptors as to what's going on. A is the amount, specifically in dollars, after time t. A is the amount after time t. How much money do I have after 2 years, after 2 months, after 10 years? How much money do I have? That's amount. After time has passed, the amount. That's there. P, we could call principal, but I'm just going to call initial. Oops, if I can spell. Initial amount. How much did you begin with? For accounts and stuff, you usually call that principal balance, but just the initial amount. What did you begin with? That's P. E is a number. We know who E is. He's fine. R is a rate in a decimal. When you put it in the equation, it needs to be a decimal percent. Down here, you see a percentage. You need to make it a decimal first. And last but not least, T is the time that has passed. How much time has passed to get to the amount. We could technically call the amount, we could also call him A of t, like a function. A of 0 would be how much do you have when time is 0 at the very beginning. A of 10, how much do you have after 10 years or 10 months or 10 days. In this example, we're measuring in years though. I know that. The money is measured in dollars. Well, that's great. That's normal. And the rates are percentages, which we need to make decimals. Okay, let me peek real quick at what I have on the next page. I have number 9. Let me give you a few hints about the columns. Initial investment, we just talked about that. That's P. Oh. Annual percentage rate. Take the percent and make it to a decimal. But yeah, that is going to be R. Time to double. T, when the new amount is double the initial amount. Time to double. You're going to see double a few times in homework, or maybe you'll see half. And we would change this to time when A equals 1/2 of P. If anyone's done chemistry, half-life. Amount after 10 years is just what is A when T is 10. That's it. A of 10, or what's the amount when t is 10? Okay, with those clues, with those hints, we're going to go ahead and tackle. Let's tackle number 9. I think he's the harder one, technically. Let's tackle number 9. I think he's the harder one. I have him on the next page, but I'm going to go ahead and quickly just do it on this page because we have all of our hints nice and filled in. So for number 9, what do we know that we can plug into our equation? Yep, the initial amount is $750. So I can put $750 in my P spot, right? A equals P times e to the RT is what I'm using, and I'm going A equals 750 e to the RT. Now, in number 8, I saw it a second ago, it gave us an R, and so you could put that R in, and you're like, yay, let's go. The problem is in number 9, they don't give us an R. What do they give us instead? So I'm going to take this clue. I'm not going to put it directly in because I'm building the equation that can be used for any time. And so I don't want to just make it for this one because it's for all the different times. In just a second, I'm going to have to set t equal to 10. But I'm going to use my clue and say, okay, hold on. So when p is 750, I don't know r. When t is 7.75, how did I get that? I know that t is time, and I plugged it in a t spot. What do we know about A? A is 2p, aka the amount has now doubled. There's two ways of doing this. One way is actually just to say, like, you know what? Whatever p was, A is now double that. And the cool thing is, whenever you're doing doubling or half-lifing, you need to know how much you started with. It actually doesn't end up even making a difference because whatever p was, when you divide both sides, the important thing is that the ratio of the two dividing the two just ends up being that doubling or that 2. But some of you were like, well, wait a minute, you knew it was 750, so you know it's going to become 1500. You know it's going to be double. Yeah, that's true. And if you divided, you would also get 2. So either way, you get 2. Whether you care about who p begin with or whether you don't, you still get 2. And now, why is this in this section? Because this finance equation uses an E, and so you have to use your skills to get to what they want, which is the R. And we have skills, so we're going to use them. We know to take ln of both sides and then divide by 7.75 to get the R. And that's going to fill in this box right there. And once we have the R, which technically we should probably make a percentage because the columns are all percentages. So I'm going to my calculator and doing the 1 over 7.75, which I had to do to get R by itself, times the ln of 2. If I can find that ln button that's been worn off. I do get 0.08944, which would be 8.944%. But once I find R, I can actually then fill in the other blank. The other blank says, hey, come back to the original equation. You know 750, you know E, you just found this guy, R, so then plug in 10. So I was able to use a clue to get to R, which filled in one box, and for the other box, I have to be a bit more proactive and say, but I need to plug in 10. Okay, do that, because now that you know R, it's super easy to plug and chug. And once you plug and chug to your calculator, you're going to go ahead and have a price amount that you can answer the question with. So I'm plugging in. Should you have your calculator for this homework? Oh yeah, I'd be so sad if you didn't. 1,834. And we're only going to round to 2 decimal places. Hopefully you guys know it's money, which is why we get to stop. So the first table that you guys come to is going to be money, continuously compounding money that you're plugging into. Sorry, that's the example that we just did. But a little bit later in homework, you're going to come to another table. Why am I showing you the tables? Because it's different than the word problems. The word problems are going to be kind of like number 84, where they say, here's an equation. Here's some clues. plug them in the right spots for what you don't know, and maybe use it to get what you need to know. Tables are weird, so I'm trying to help you on those. This one, the table says half-life. I don't think stuff's growing if it's a half-life. I think instead stuff's decaying. And if you guys read this entire table, it has to do with radioactive elements, which we really, really want to decay. Otherwise, we're in trouble. Actually, this one, though, is just carbon-14. But half-life, something is decaying. Something is decaying. So from that, we know in all of this table that we can be using the formula y equals exponential decay A times e to the negative bx. But here's the dealio, guys. What I want you to realize is this is actually going to be more helpful if you think of him as the finance equation. If you think of him as the finance equation. Because doesn't the finance equation have an initial place? And doesn't the finance equation have an amount after a certain number of time? And doesn't this equation have a way that an amount can be 1/2 of an initial amount? And to be honest, the name doesn't really matter. To be honest, the name doesn't really matter. That's just extra information. So we're basically kind of doing what we just did, and I want you guys to realize that's an amount. It doesn't have to be money. It can be stuff like grams of a certain substance or bacteria or population. This can be initial, not just money, but actual like population or amount that you're going for. Still can be rate and still can be time. Now guys, Monday, we get to continue this on a little bit more because I think I just announced that our test, oh I didn't. Our test is on Wednesday. I need to adjust the calendar just a little bit, but listen, even though I'm going to make the actual deadline in Google Classroom Tuesday at 7 a.m., please heed my words. If you don't start this homework and get all the way through these tables, ouch, it's going to hurt next week, okay? All right, get out of here. Bye, guys.
Actually, the name can make her know what's the